And before I go, let me address that question from the chat. Planet Zero asks, how do you view the effectiveness slash value of knights when facing people at your own level versus people below you? Right, that's an interesting question. Um, I'm Team Knight, so I love knights a lot, and knights are very tricky. Um, One thing I realized recently, only recently, obviously when you play weaker players, you expect to trick them even in equal end games, right? You expect so if you have tricks or pieces that are tricky like knights, you expect that to happen eventually. It's not like you're super confident or you have any special plan in mind. You just expect that to happen. But one thing I realized only recently, and it's surprising to me, is I started playing this variant that's my new favorite on chess.com, setup chess. I don't know if any of you tried setup chess, but it's so much fun. I love it. So in this variant, you you have 39 points. You start with an empty board, and before you start the game, you start, by turns, you place your pieces on the board. You just have 39 points plus a king. You have to put the king. You can only use the three first ranks. So let's say you put a pawn here on a3, that you spent 1 point. On the next turn, you can put, let's say, a queen here, so you spent 9 points. And in the end, you can use up to 39 points, but you can use them however you like. So some people put 4 queens and 3 pawns and things like that. Some people just put the normal stuff, like 8 pawns, 2 knights, 2 bishops, 2 rooks, and a queen. What I like to do is put 13 knights. So, and so I put 13 knights on the board. The opponents, yeah, I played against all sorts of things. Some people put 10 bishops, some people put 4 queens, 2 rooks, a queen. I don't know. I played against many different setups, and with 13 knights, I tell you, people hang stuff all the time. Like, I see, for me, it's not super hard to keep track where all the knights can go, how many times a square is defended, because I have 4 knights going to that square. But I think when people is weaker, it gets more confusing, or is they lose track of all all the squares that are covered and not. So I don't know, maybe it's a visualization thing, but I only realized how bad weaker people keep track of squares that are covered, squares that are not, knight jumps that can cover. When I see a knight and I see an important square over the board on the board, I know exactly how many tempi it takes for the knight to go there. I know exactly what are my possibilities to go there, and I think maybe that comes with experience, that you see it immediately, while maybe, I don't know, when I was less experienced, maybe it would take me a while to figure out how to get the knight there, or what are my options. So yeah, I don't know if I answer your question, probably not, but effectiveness value of knights when facing people at your own level versus people below you. Yeah, knights are very tricky. Knights are the trickiest piece, and so definitely it's a good resource. In general, when you play weaker players, you want things to not be super easy. Oh, the variant I was talking about is called setup chess. Setup chess, that you can play on chess.com. So yeah, when you play weaker players, you want things. I don't want things super messy and super sharp, because then I know I can blunder and then it's a lottery. Like in a super sharp middle game, I know I can lose against anyone. I can also win against anyone. Well, that's what happens with sharp stuff. Chess is beyond what our minds can handle. So I don't like to go super sharp. But it is true that I don't want to be like super symmetrical, like super easy, because then any player can draw against me, right? So you want to keep some kind of imbalance, right? And knight versus bishop is one of my favorites. If I can have a knight against a bishop in an endgame, I know that's going to be a good way to have winning chances against any weaker player. But I could say the same probably with having the bishop against a knight. So in general, what you want is to keep some sort of imbalance, so that the position is not an immediate obvious draw, and you can work with something strategically. You can have some strategical elements to the position that you can expect to outplay a weaker player. But yeah, if it's just absolutely symmetrical, and especially if there are no rooks, how am I gonna win? Still tricky, There's always ideas, even in king and pawn endgames, but obviously it's easier when you can have some strategical, more complicated element, like a minor piece against another minor piece, like knight versus bishop is definitely one of my favorites to try and beat any weaker player in an endgame, in an equal endgame. Sometimes even a slightly worse endgame. So yeah, team knight.